It's 5:30 in my mind.
Okay.
Yeah, it is.
All right. Forward.
Forward. All right. Ladies and gentlemen. I'll wait for the help out. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. I don't have a gavels.
It's those chiefs, they just,
Yeah, they just,
too many chiefs.
all right. Welcome to Personnel Committee for Tuesday, March 28th, 2017. Alderman Stoyer, I am here. We have Alderman Moore. We have Alderman Tom Duane and Alderman Tom Slavic. The adoption of the agenda.
So moved.
Second. Do we have a second? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That carries. Approval of the minutes from the February 28th, 2017 minute.
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That passes. Number 4, consideration with possible action on request to approve out-of-state travel for officers Bray and Allen to conduct background investigations on police officer candidate in Fishers, Indiana in April 2017 at an estimated total cost of $330 for transportation.
Move to
room and board.
approve.
Second that.
Okay, have any other discussion on that? Otherwise, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That does pass. Number 5, consideration with possible action on request to reclassify and fill the civilian position of Senior Humane Animal Control Officer to a sworn position of Humane Police Officer in the Police Department and all subsequent vacancies resulting from internal transfers. This staffing change will result in an increase in total compensation of $25,879.
Move to approve.
Second for discussion.
All right, okay. Who would
I
like
just know that
to-
we did
Go ahead.
have some questions on this that we'd asked the police chief about, and one of those was trying to get a breakdown of what activities would be dedicated to the animal control and what activities would be dedicated as a sworn officer
Okay.
when made full-time.
Hello, Chief.
Hello, everybody. Good to see you again. Thanks for having me.
Okay,
As we discussed the first time I was here, or the second time, I don't recall, there's 3 real reasons why I think it's important for this animal humane officer to be a sworn position. Number 1 is the safety of the person, and I hope we have an opportunity to hear from Sharon Henson, who did the job for 12 years, about some of the things that she encountered while she was the animal services person in charge here in Green Bay, and how I think she'll agree with me that safety is a big concern. We see across the country animal services officers being attacked by people because it's very emotional when someone loses an animal or when an animal service officer has to go into someone's house to take custody of an animal, to write citations, or to arrest someone for animal cruelty or animal neglect. In fact, we looked around the country real quick and we saw it in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Lancaster, South Carolina, Southfield, Michigan, Sacramento, North Carolina, and even Marquette, Michigan have converted their civilian people to a sworn position. And that's one of the main reasons I think this is a good idea. The second thing is to have an animal service officer that's a sworn officer, puts an extra sworn officer with all the capabilities of a sworn police officer out in the field for really, if it's as high as $25,000, as we said, a pretty low price. If this person's selected as Officer Maids, she already receives information from her, or she already receives insurance from her husband, so that would be a significant savings if she's the one who's successful in this. And finally, I think that, Officer Maves does a terrific job. I think we all agree with that. And I know we don't like to select a job for a person because of personality, but she was made for this job, I think. We had a conversation again today where if she said if this was an opportunity that she'd hope to retire out of this position because this is what she really wants to do. And she was a humane intern under Sharon Henson prior to becoming a sworn police officer. So quick answer to some of the questions that you asked me to look up last week. Number of calls that our animal services person handles in a 5-month period. I talked a little bit about this. We expanded it. 643 last year, 713 total calls in that 5-month period from October till today, last year versus this year. You asked for the number of total calls our interns took in 2016. That's 1,844. Now those are the civilians that work in the evenings, and we give them the low-grade calls like we give the CSIs the low-grade calls to handle, check the traps. We don't want them going into people's houses or doing any investigations or things like that. We want that to wait for the animal services officers. Sharon would be best to answer the question about the number of times police officers backed our humane officer. We had a hard time tracking that through our computer system, because oftentimes officers will just roll by to check on her, and she can talk more about that. But she reckons that she requests a backup about a third of the time on about a third of the calls that she goes. And she went on just about 6 calls per day the last year that she was working. You asked for the number of animal cruelty cases in 2016. In 2015, there were 363 calls for service for animal cruelty. 2016, including the first couple months of this year, it's 300. So that kind of gives you a little bit of a snapshot. I hope that answers some of the statistical questions that you had. And I'm here to answer any questions, or if you want to hear from Sharon or anybody else, I'm happy to do it if you like.
Is there something-
Make a motion to-
Sharon, move to open the floor.
Yeah.
Tom, did you have another point though first?
No, I was gonna do that because I want the chief
Right.
to stay up there and open the floor for Sharon to come up here, because I think that's necessary, especially to hear, because I know when I worked with her, sometimes she didn't always call it in through the office to get an officer out there. You know, you have phone numbers, she knows, she knew who was out there in the area, and a quick, you know, hey, I need your help type thing, so to be able to hear that.
Okay,
Because it's not
so-
recorded then necessarily.
Yes, sir, that's correct. And we had a hard time using our computer system to try and figure out how many times,
Right.
because oftentimes officers will go, if they don't log into the computer, there's really no record of it. So I guess the best anecdotal evidence would be ask her.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a motion and a second?
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, all opposed? Okay. Sharon? Could you come forward?
And you thought you were done.
Oh, well. Well, anyway, Tom, go
Yeah,
ahead.
Sharon, I know when we worked together, a lot of times when it was extended, like, you know, when we were on Bastion, remember that pit bull and stuff like that, and other dogs, you just sometimes made a quick call, you knew the officer. So can you give us an example of some of that stuff so we get a better understanding? Because
What's that I
I
was
dealt with
trying-
it personally, so I know.
Okay, what I was trying to talk with the chief about a little bit earlier, it wasn't even just me sometimes calling an officer. Okay, a lot of times I would end up at an address and an officer would show up because they would run it and say, do you realize who you're dealing with? You know, and because I wasn't running it at the time, it was like, you know, who? He just got out of prison for murder. Oh, great, thank you very much. And they'd come along, okay? Sometimes my phone has speed dial. Now all I'd have to do is hit a number and it would be Shootsy or Visa, you know, that type of thing. And they just come on over. Or they had talked to me earlier and said, you're going over there, I want to come along, I'm coming in. So when they ran the numbers, it is really hard to tell you how many times I had a police officer with me because it wasn't listed in the call notes.
I have a question.
Sure.
Sure.
Go ahead, Tom.
I understand it's difficult to give us precise numbers, but I just heard the chief say that you took probably about 6 calls a day.
That's
and
low.
about 1/3 of those you would have backup. So it was twice a day on average?
Well,
or-
you have to look at the average. There would be some days where I'd have them with me 4 or 5 because we're going with inspection or we were going with probation parole. Okay, then there'd be a day I'd have them maybe once, or the next 2 days I wouldn't see them at all. And it just, you know, just like ran in cycles, just like the calls themselves. You know, June, July, and August are crazy as far as calls. I mean, literally, the calls go up to, I think I hit 24 calls in one day. Right? But then you go into December, January, February, and the calls really slack off because of the weather. So average is out. You have to do the average.
And so the estimate of twice a day?
It's pretty good.
Is pretty good.
Mhm.
All right, thank you.
Sharon, I was going to ask quickly, are you comfortable with the police department's direction with this?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I
Just
strongly
wanted to hear your
suggested
thought.
it.
Okay.
I said it's a win-win all the way across the board. Because I am a very proactive person. I don't react. I don't want to do something after the fact. So I can see where this is headed. I mean, you think about it. 5 years ago, did you have that many heroin overdoses in this town? Now you're hearing about them all the time. You know, 8 years ago, did you hear about all the gangs in this town? No, you're hearing about them all the time. I mean, that's the way it's gonna go. And rather than, if an animal control person is taken out, there's one. There's one. That means how many officers are gonna have to kick in to take over what that person was doing. So, yeah, you need to get a sworn officer, because I'd hate to see a layperson do this. I've been doing this 36 years. Yeah, got a lot of experience behind me and know how to look, what to look for and how to deal with people. You get somebody new in this, can't tell you how many times I've had a weapon in me. Scariest thing was hearing a shotgun. You know, you learn to work with that.
How do you sort out the calls that you'll send interns on versus the calls that you would take?
You can't be absolutely 100% sure when you send an intern out that they're not going to run into somebody. Because if they're setting a trap or picking up a trap or checking on a license or doing a barking call, okay, even barking calls can turn into something that's crazy. Okay, it can escalate. It could be a dog barking because somebody's dead in the house, and we've had that. So you try to pick out what you think is going to be the calmest. It's just like the community liaisons. They go to the traffic. They don't know who it is behind the wheel, you know, but they're trying to do whatever is safest.
Do you think that our use of interns is taking an unreasonable risk?
Well, then you have to check and say, is your crossing guards taking an unreasonable risk? I mean, you can't predict what's going to happen at every house, at every car, at every scenario. You can't. You just pick what would be the least likely that would happen. If somebody's going out to check a trap, chances are pretty good that he's not going to have any problems. If somebody's going out to check on barking, chances are he probably is not going to have any problems. Okay? So you try to weigh the good with the bad. Which way? Without the interns have saved the city so much money. It's unbelievable. I mean, incredible what they've been able to accomplish. And it's still the first of its kind. So,
Anybody else?
I did have a question, actually. When you get into the slower months or slower days, and you were very proactive, you would, you know, go talk to people and just get to know their pets and get to know them a little bit. How would you say you spent most of your downtime? And, you know, then I would ask the chief, you know, on these calls in between, you know, what assignments, I guess, would be given to the new candidate.
getting to know the people of the city. That is absolutely the best thing I can tell you. Because like you said, he's still living in your area, isn't he?
Yeah, he is.
Do you know how many times I talked with him on the street?
Oh, can't even imagine.
Yeah, exactly. And he'd flag me down.
Sure.
So it's more than just the position. It's, you become such a part of the city and you become such a part of the community. And I mean, people would flag you down like crazy. I'm still getting it. Okay, I walk into a store and somebody recognizes me and I get a hug from behind. So, you know, you just, it's interaction with the city. It's such good PR. It's unreal.
Sure.
Joe, Tom?
Yeah, Chief, will you come up next, sir? Because I want you to explain, because you really dealt with it last time we were here, explaining what you're going to do with the officer Mavis.
Mavis.
Thank you. Taking calls, stuff like that, so there really is not going to be any, if I'm understanding right, there really won't be much downtime, if any at all.
Right. One of the advantages of having a sworn officer in there, and Officer Mavis is already doing that, is she can roll by a call and handle it so a sworn officer, another sworn officer, doesn't have to. She can do a lot of things on her own because she's armed. She has a taser, she has the police training, she has a sidearm that Sharon couldn't do or maybe didn't feel comfortable doing without a backup or without having another officer there. But if I just look at some of the calls, you know, on since Officer Mavis has been in there for a few months, handled a couple abandoned vehicles, 3 accidents, 4 assisting other law enforcement, did a court call, a couple of crime prevention, disturbances with weapons. She went on 9 disturbances with weapon calls, 3 hazards, 3 cases of harassment, 1 case of fraud, you know, a drug call, noise complaints, retail theft. She did a couple of those, suspicious situations, suspicious vehicles, half a dozen. Suspicious situations. So she's able to go out and do the work, listen to the radio, and do the work of a regular sworn officer. I know the cost is a concern, and I share that concern with everybody because I know what a tight budget we have. But this gets us an extra sworn officer in the field for just the difference between her salary and Officer Mavis's salary. And again, if we do select Officer Mavis, her husband carries the insurance for her, so there's a significant cost savings there.
Is there additional cost to retrofitting the vehicle any specific way? Maybe updating the marking, you know, on it?
One of the things we may want to do is put a regulation light on the top so she could do traffic stops on that. Also like to equip it with a police rifle, but that's just a matter of buying the box and finding a convenient spot inside to have that mounted. So our mechanics can do that for pretty minimal cost.
Can I make a suggestion to you guys? And I've said this, I've preached this for 12 years. Ride along. Get in that truck and ride with the animal control person.
It's amazing.
yes, ride. Especially pick June, July, and August. And get out there and really see what they do. You know, everybody's got this misconception of what we do. And it's crazy. Absolute crazy.
I remember it was way back, but you had, well, 5, 6 calls, and 4 or 5 times we had an officer that was needed. I said that last time.
All right. Anybody else?
Move to return to regular order?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Do we have I just have a question actually for staff. Do we have an update on what the increase in total compensation would be for the remainder of the year? This has been an agenda item for a couple of months and the total hasn't changed.
I don't know, have you calculated what the cost, what the charge will be for the remainder of the year? I can do that quickly. I don't
We've,
think I actually.
salary savings this year, I was told by our guys who guesstimated it was about $15,000 because we've had Sharon's spot empty for the first 3 months of the
Take
year.
that divided by 12. Take that divided by
But that's back of the envelope, I'm sure.
40/20. I would say probably about 10,000, probably somewhere between $8,000 to $10,000, because I know that we don't have to worry about the insurance. I'm just looking at the salary, and for half, well, actually for half a year, it's probably gonna be a little bit less than that. So I'd say probably $7,000 to $8,000, just eyeballing it right now, out of this budget.
Well, I do think that having the extra sworn officer at the minimal cost, half of what it would cost, less than half of what it would cost to put another sworn officer on the street is pretty important. And I do know that animal calls are, very emotional, so I would support this, just with, the caveat that, Chief, you're really gonna have to watch. Obviously, you know already your budget coming into 2018, so, but I would make a motion that we approve this.
It's already been done. You seconded it.
I seconded it.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Right, I concur with all
that's
their,
right, yeah.
all their more as well. I think it's a great move, and, and you realize that with budgets and that, but with that being said, I think would be a great move for the city. So, all right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Thank you, sir.
There you go. All right, next, consideration with possible action on report of routine personnel actions for regular employees.
Motion to receive and place on file.
Second?
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That passes. Okay, update and discussion on police labor negotiations.
Do you have anything, or you?
I do have one thing, it might take 5 minutes, so I'd like to go to closed session.
Okay.
All right, Joe, go on. Where you at?
Do we have the language? The committee may convene in closed session pursuant to 19.851 sub E of the Wisconsin statutes for purposes of deliberating or negotiating public employee contracts for competitive or bargaining reasons. The committee may thereafter reconvene in open session pursuant to 19.852 Wisconsin statutes to report the result of the closed session and consider the balance of the agenda. Go into closed session.
Okay, we have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Oh, that,
I just thought that was.
Motion to
You heard
proceed
it.
as just heard it.
I was talking
We'll,
about.
we'll still do that.
You were talking-
We'll still take a motion
yeah,
in regular order here, just to
Right.
Yeah.
direct staff.
all right,
There you go.
all right.
I'll make that motion then that we direct staff to continue with negotiations as
Second.
discussed in closed session.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, all opposed? Okay. Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. Thank you all.
All right, right in the.